working. But we are here today because it is Wellness Talk Wednesday, and you just heard from Tammy Vincent. I am so excited to have her on the show today. As you all know, we're talking about those teenagers today and how we can really support our teenagers. So the little spiel that we did a little bit ago when we thought we were, broadcasted on streamer, we're going to do that again. But I'm so happy to have her here today because I really want you all to understand that when you have a story, you have a purpose, you have a mission, you cannot sleep, you cannot eat, you can't think right until you are out there and you're ready to do it, because God is always going to say, hey, I called you for, hey, you're always going to get reminded of your mission. And this wonderful former educator and speaker and author has a story, has a mission, and she really has some steps for us to help our teens. And so, as you know, we are talking today about how we can reach our most disconnected teens who may be dealing with trauma, and we want to identify them. We want to get some tips on how to help them and create spaces for them, especially so that we have that social emotional learning environment that really helps them transform their lives. And so teachers, educators, educational consultants, anybody who is listening today, take out your pad and take out your pencil, because we really want to help our teens. Right now, though, we talk a lot about wellness in school. We talk about, okay, we want to have social emotional learning, all that. But what does wellness mean to you? What does it look like for you to be well? And I want to ask you this: what does it look like for you to be well? And how do you, get self-care?
Well, it is right now, looking in this day and age, being well is simply having a little bit of serenity, having a little bit of peace, being able to put your head down at night and actually close your eyes without stress, without trauma, without baggage, really. We said earlier, it's meditation. It's just looking at the little things in life, living life with an attitude of gratitude. I've been practicing for 20 years, just trying to be grateful for every little thing, because it's the little things that matter. And that's basically, it's all little things. And all those little things add up to huge things, really. And right now, it's in the classroom, it's just giving those kids a sense of safety, of give them a little compassion, give them a little empathy. It's a sense of safety, loving on them, give them a little compassion, give them a little empathy. I think it's a little delayed.
There you go. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can hear you. Keep going.
You can. Okay. But no, that's just really, that's what it's just serenity. And that's the ultimate goal. And I think everybody's life is just serenity. And in order to get that, you have to really focus on yourself. You have to meditate, you have to pray, you have to find your higher power. Even if you're not into going to church, find that higher power and just find whatever it is that's bigger than you, because it's bigger than all of us, and just enjoy it and enjoy life.
Can you all tell us in the chat what you do to be well? My mission for the rest of this year is for us to really identify, what does it mean for me to be well? And how does this connect to what we're talking about today, is that our children are watching us. Our children are taking those, whatever we are doing, they're watching us, they see us. And so we want to set an example of what it looks like to be well and how we can become the best of who we are. And so how do you all, who are in the chat, educators, I have some educational consultants on here, some people that are just viewing, what are some practices that you wish you were doing to be well? And what are some practices that maybe you think that you might want to that you want to continue? So I don't know if you guys can you see the chat, Tam?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So as you guys are thinking about that, like, what does it look like for you to be well? Our children, sometimes we don't know how to see, like, if we can help them if they're not well. Sometimes they might be acting out. We might think they're acting up, and they probably are acting up. But they may not be well, and they may not know what it looks like to be well, and they're just just doing whatever their emotions and their bodies are telling them to do, or the world is telling them to do. And so what's one of the questions why I asked, like, how do we regulate ourselves and all of those things? So I want us to think about that on these Wellness Wednesdays, because if we start to embody wellness, our children who are looking up to us, that we're teaching, our maybe it's our children at home or children in the community, they can really see some very good examples of things that we've learned from. And so today, Tammy is really phenomenal. And I want you to talk a little bit about who you are, where you came from, and then we'll go into the mission. But who's Tammy? Who are you? Why are you
Well,
here?
besides being a mother of 3 kids, a pug, and a wife, I was a teacher for about 15 years on and off. I did different things. I got my master's in education. I went back and got it in special education, and then life happened and things brought me in different directions. And so I've been doing different things, but it's always, my mission, it always grabs me back to my past, no matter what. When I was a teacher, I remember putting my hand on a little girl's shoulder and she wet herself. And it's just like, it's like triggers, and you look at that and you go, wow, she's so happy, until you touch her, and it's just, you find throughout my 15 years that just every year I found 2 or 3 different people that I was just like, wow, I got to grab them. And yes, I could grab them. I could love them. I could help them. I can, get them to the right places. But I feel like after my childhood and after 50 teachers, and not one of them said, oh, there's something off, something wrong. I just found it as my mission to get out and identify these children. And I want to do it in the masses. I want to be able to reach as many of these children as you can. I know a lot of people, when they look at children of alcoholic, which I am one, both of my parents were unfortunately alcoholics. So I got it both ends, but when you look at children of alcoholics, you don't know what's going on at home. You see them in the classroom and they're sad or they're super happy. So there's no real emotion. There's no, it's very trauma driven. So my job and my kind of mission and what I want to do is I want to get in there and I want to help identify these children and show people what it might look like. I know Queen mentioned before, that they might just be acting out. I was one of those children. I was the one that always slept on my desk. And I know I got a bad rap for sleeping on my desk every day, but no one knew it was because my parents were fighting or beating each other up and I was sitting outside and I didn't come in at night. So I sat in the barn straight up, scared to death, sleeping outside. So of course I slept on my desk, so it's just, it's, there's a lot of them. And it used to be, not the norm. It used to be 1 in 20. I mean, in a classroom of 26 children, you would have 1 child possibly. Now the statistics are it's almost 1 in 4.
Wow. So you're saying 1 in 4 are children have alcoholic parents?
Or it could of addiction in general. 87% of them are alcoholism, but 1 in 4 have some kind of addiction in 1 or 2 parents.
Wow. Let me pause right here because I'm seeing some things in the chat, a lot of great things in the chat.
And I cannot see
so
the chat.
Powerful. Well, on Facebook. So if you,
okay,
I'm going to just kind of read a few of these things here. First of all, you went into, our ways to identify signs of trauma and anxiety, and it may not be children who have alcoholic parents. It could be children traumatized by so many different things, gun violence and abuse, so many things. And so sometimes we just don't know in our class. We go in our classroom and we want to do what we're supposed to do. And we're like, let's go, you need to listen, da, 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 da. And we've got, what I'm understanding as I talk to you and as I learn from you, and I've even been able to look into your book and see like, wait a minute, pause. Am I sensitive to whatever my students may be? Like, we as teachers have a hard job. We have to know everything, be everything, do everything. And sometimes it's overwhelming. And that's why I asked about wellness. So in this chat, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about being well. A lot of times our parents may not have been well and they were trying to do the best they could do and maybe not. And our children are affected by that. And so some ways that I want to pull out, it says that someone said, I agree, serenity. We need serenity. Yes, we need safe spaces. take time to be still. These are ways in which people are talking about wellness, right? And I really want to tie it to what you're saying about the classroom. If our children are in the classroom and they are not well, they're not learning well. I am on a mission, Tam, and I didn't even introduce myself to those of you who might be watching. I am Queen Educator, and I am on a mission to make sure that we have excellent and equitable experiences in our classrooms, in our homes, and in our classrooms mainly, and in everyone who is involved, our parents, our community workers, everyone in the classroom, even the support staff, understands that we have to work together to make sure our children are well. And we got to make sure that everyone who is doing that is well. So that's why if you don't have that inner peace, so I see Sandra said, inner peace, calmness, and quiet time every day. You don't take that. You go into the classroom and you're just like, let's go. You get off your desk. You're not necessarily being sensitive to who might be very fragile in that space, although they might be acting, although we may think that they don't care. Tam and I were talking about that earlier. Sometimes it's like, oh, these kids don't want to learn. Oh, they don't care. That may not always be the case. So we've got to be one within ourselves, be well within ourselves so that we can start to identify those signs of trauma and anxiety. And I'm really interested in hearing a little bit more about how we do that. So continue, please continue.
Well, when you talk about identifying, you can't always identify. You can sometimes with this situation with grabbing the hand and she wets herself. Clearly a case of trauma and abuse and everything else. Sometimes it just means getting in the classroom and empowering all of the children together, because even if you don't physically identify them, like, yes, those 6 of the 24 are children of abuse or neglect or some kind of trauma. If you're empowering the whole classroom together, you're going to reach them. You're going to reach them. For one, the children that are abused and neglected, they're not going to reach out for help.
Come on.
So you're going to have to reach out. I always felt like when I taught my classroom, I gave every single person the benefit of the doubt. You just have to assume that not everybody, like you said, not everybody is well. Right. And if you're reaching out to all of them at the same time, it's a good blanket solution. I guess it's not, it's not, exactly. and then you put the ones, because if you gain their trust, a child of an alcoholic doesn't trust anybody. They don't trust themselves. They don't trust the teacher. They don't trust the counselors. They don't trust anybody because they've been taught not to trust. And one of the biggest things that children of alcoholics have been taught is you don't talk, you don't tell, you don't trust, because it has to stay in the house.
Wow.
And
that
go ahead.
Before you keep going, there's like so many comments coming in here. There's so many comments in the chat and so many people are vibing with where we are going. And so if you are just tuning in, I am here with Tammy Vincent, and she is a phenomenal speaker. She's an author. She's the author, if you haven't seen on the flyer, of Surviving Alcoholic Parents. And she's not just telling you about it, it is part of her story. And tune on in, and we are trying to reach the educators to help them see how we can better create safe spaces and identify ways in which we can support our students who are really struggling and have had lots of trauma and anxiety. And Tam, I want to acknowledge some of these notes in the chat, because they are just flying off. There's so many of them. There's so many of them. And so we are talking specifically around teenagers at this point. And this can be applied with younger children because they don't know how to sometimes communicate how they're feeling. And they may in ways that, you're like, why are they so clingy to me, or not clingy at all, or so there's so much we can go into. But I love Tammy's mission, and she's going to talk to us a little bit more about these statistics and how we can really support. So I have Tangeray says, during the school day, I try to ensure that I go outside on my planning period. So that's for her. So teaching well, that's my whole motto, guys. Be well so you can teach well. If you are not the best of you, you can miss empowering, like Tammy said, all those students in the classroom. Tasha says, tell Jesus all about it and listen to Bible teachers. Okay, now I know that's right. You better get your wellness right through the Bible. I love it. Inner peace, Sandra says, calmness, quiet time every day. And it says, yay, special education teachers needed in every corner of the world. It said, Tangeray said, I drew within myself. Okay. Become withdrawn in class. Okay. Okay. Become withdrawn in class or would become hyper obsessed. Oh, because the girl, I done skipped it. There it goes. I became withdrawn in class. So she was an example of a student being a student in class, and she was withdrawn in her class. She would become hyper obsessive of things. Is that some things that you can connect with and relate to?
Oh yeah, and you're going to go either way. You're either going to be that shy, quiet child who doesn't say a thing, or
Mhm.
you could also be that hyper vigilant, like reactive to everything, or you could also be the overachiever.
Mm,
Everything has to be
wanna
perfect.
please, yeah.
I mean, it's a normal thing for a 5-year-old to want to please. It's another thing for a 9-year-old to know that if they don't please, they're going to get beat up.
Wow, wow.
So it's, there's so many different dynamics, and there's so many different things that come out of it.
Yeah.
Everybody reacts differently.
Mhm.
An example, just a good example, I believe we were talking about it earlier, is just where you sit in the family. So
Yeah.
I had an older brother and a younger sister. And now I'm 53, he's 55. Well, I'm 54, but he's 55 and she's 50. And we have a completely and totally different idea of what our life was like. You would have never thought we even lived in the same house.
Mm.
So we all took different roles. We all did different things. We all, one was my sister was, well, I kind of took a bunch of different roles. I don't know why, I guess because I'm the most talkative one, I guess. But, my brother was kind of the one that was just going to go out. He was the one that got in trouble a lot and just got the attention that way. And that, even though people don't know it, that's to get the attention off of the family.
Yes, okay.
So they're getting in enough trouble to take the attention off the fact that mom got 3 DUIs.
Mm.
And then I was more of the caretaker. I was 8 years old doing my dad's laundry because I knew there was no way he was getting to work with clean clothes if I
Wow.
didn't do it.
Being
You know,
parents at 8-year-old, you're taking on parent responsibilities at 8-year-old, at a young age. And I'm looking here, and Tangeray said she could relate. Her dad was a drug addict, and she said, "Thank you so much for sharing your story, Tammy." So I wanted to acknowledge that. She
yeah.
said also gun violence was a part of her story as well. And so imagine growing up and you're trying to like you said, please, or you're trying to take the attention off the family. You don't want anybody to know, or it is a real thing that many of our children face. And she says here, I truly appreciate you for talking about this so boldly and transparently, because a lot of people do not. So Tammy, I'm just so excited that you're on here today, and that you must have had to go through some healing to get to a space where you can actually share like this and talk to us a little bit about your process through this, through your trauma.
Well, and it's funny. I was just telling my husband this today. We were talking about how do you know when you're an alcoholic, and most alcoholics don't know, and everything else. And both of my parents were alcoholics. And it was actually my father, when I was 13, said to me, "We are doing irreparable damage to you three, and I
Wow.
don't know how to help you." So he
Mhm.
sent me to an Alateen meeting.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, you can do all the exercises, you can empower kids as much as they want. They still need some kind of major support group. And that's really, when I talk about my book, it's really just educating and steering them in the right direction to get the help they need. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I'm not going to try to do trauma therapy with them, but I am going to try to get them to understand that they matter enough to get that kind of help for themselves. But my process, like I said, I went to that Alateen meeting at 13 years old, and it was a very bad meeting to go to because it was about empathy. And I believe you read that section of the book, correct? And it was not the right
Absolutely.
meeting. Yeah, it was not the right one to go to. I know now that it probably was the right one, but it was 20 years before I went back and really tried to decide it was time to get help. um, there's just so many different things that are changed in your relationships, in your coping skills, in your interpersonal skills. I mean, you either become a doormat or you become a bossy, pushy. I mean, there's all different things, and everybody develops, and none of them are wrong. They're exactly what is expected to happen. But my mission is to if you Google children of alcoholics on your phone, if everybody picked up their phone right now and Googled children of alcoholics, I guarantee you what would come up would be adult children of alcoholics. And my thinking is, why wait till they're adults? Why not teach them some of these coping skills and just teach them some of the stuff that, had I known when I was 13 or 11 or 9, would have changed my entire life. The entire trajectory of my life would have been different had I read my book or somebody else's book similar to that. And there's lots of books out there, but they've got to be given to the children.
Your book is geared for the children.
Yes.
I think
Now
that-
it is geared, it is a teen guide, because
okay.
I would write it a little differently if it was geared to younger people, but all the information in it can be taught to younger children.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
in a more simplistic, I mean, it's written very simplistically. I know teenagers nowadays don't want to sit down and read a 400-page book.
Now listen, if we can help it, help to get it into the hands of them and say, hey, you know, especially when we start to identify and we start to know some things, especially if you're an educator. I know I have some people who were principals or maybe consultants now, you know, being able to share that with your staff and say, hey, read this, or even share some things with children, sometimes, or try some things with the children. You know, there's so many ways that we can get to our children. And I believe that we need to educate in new ways in these days. There's like way too many children that are suffering in school, and we're worried about a test. And they're worried about surviving their lives. And on here, someone says, we often do not have these conversations with children. We shy away in the act of I'm trying to see it, protected. Yep, exactly. And there's so much, and I believe it was Sandra who said earlier, working in the system places a lot of red tape and protocol that prevents us from addressing the human side, come on, as we'd like to. Former teachers who know the system must continue our work outside the classroom. I love it. Thank you so much. You all's comments are just amazing here. And saying that we have to check in as well, check in with all. People are in agreement. Also, educators can't take on everything, Tasha says, as their thing. Do everything that you can to reach your scholars. This is really important. And I want to ask you a question about your teachers. And so thank you, Tasha. This is making me think about a question I was thinking of as I was reading the book. She says, do everything that you can to reach your scholars, empathize and love them. Just keep in mind, there will be things only the Father will be able to change. And I want to say something I want to ask you a question about that, because we don't want teachers to feel like, oh my gosh, like we already care so much about our babies and we want them to be well, we want them to thrive. And then there's added things where like, I just want to close my eyes and run away when I hear about the things that happen and things that my children see or children see. What would you have liked your teachers to do more of or less of, or what did you expect of them when you were going through when you were trying to survive from your household to the school?
You know, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what I would have wanted, but I've said 1,000 times, if I had just known that, if I had just known this, you know, I'm still saying it. If I had just known that at 25, you know, even, yeah. But I mean, it's just general education, you know, and general education, and also giving back kids a sense of identity. That's one of the biggest things with children. And I don't, you know, I'm sure you guys all know it because you're educators, but not everybody understands how identities are formed. You know, you take one little girl who their moms look at them and they're 6 months old and everybody's cooing at them and loving on them and telling them they're going to do amazing things and they're going to be just absolutely beautiful and that they can't wait for them to grow up. And so what is their identity? They hear those things. That is what becomes their identity. It's not just what they think about themselves, but it's what they see other people thinking about them. Wow. So that little girl is going to grow up and think, I'm loving, I'm wanted, I'm adorable, I'm this, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be that. But then you get the other one who literally from 2 years old, all they hear is, you know, you're fatter than the other kids, you eat too much, you're a pain in the butt, I wish you had never born, I hate you, I blah, blah, blah. So what is their identity? They're ugly, they're fat, they're stupid, they're hated, they should have never been born. So literally, if you know, just a kid, you know, just I used to do this exercise when I was a teacher and it was I called it my I am. So I used to have all the kids write down 10 things that they thought about themselves, just 10 things. And then they had to close their eyes and they had to picture the person that they respected the most and thought loved them the most. And 10 things that person thought about them. And then we looked at all the list. We crossed off anything that could possibly be conceived as negative.
Wow.
And it became their I am list. So every morning in the front of the classroom, we used to read our I am list. And it was just a hot mess because there was 26 kids reading a different word. But it was, I am beautiful, I am patient, I am friendly, I am kind. And we did it all, 10 things every single morning.
I love that. I love that.
I had to help some of those kids make those lists because they couldn't come up with 10 positive things.
Wow.
So I gave them those things, you were beautiful, you were amazing, you were this and you were that. And it's those little things, that would have just one person, I look at it and I just say, if one teacher, they say one teacher can change your whole life. And it's so true.
It's so true. Thank you.
You
That, to me, that's so powerful. And it's funny that you said that we used to do an I am wall. I actually did it with teachers and for a PD one time. And it was way more powerful than I thought. And you said it earlier, when you look up children of alcoholic parents or you see adults, we actually have children, like we grow up, if we don't have, we grow up with that identity. If it's not positive, we're still growing up with that. And that's why we perpetuate systems and things that are not pleasant. And some people choose to do differently and they say, no, I will not grow up and do the same things. But it is such, and you talked about it earlier, it's a pandemic or a epidemic in our world, more than we even know. And as our children who are younger dealing with this are getting older, they're doing what they know, they're doing what they learned, they're taking on the identity that they think they should take on. And so we are here to dismantle the way in which these patterns have been going. This is one of the reasons why I love working with educators. And you said it, I want you all in the chat right now. I want you to put one thing. I want you to actually say that, I am. And what are you? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Just the first thing, I am. And as they're doing that, we did an I am wall for the teachers. And I did it because I wanted them to do it with the kids in their rooms when they first came to school. And they said, this was powerful for me. I was like, good. If we don't experience it and practice empowering and taking well-deserved time for ourselves, then we're not really going to do that much for the kids, right? And so I really want us to think about that and our teachers about that. And if you are on here and you are an educator and you know somebody needs to hear this and see this, please share this live. I will be on every Wednesday with either a live video if I'm with somebody on here like Tammy or just some support so people can practice being well. Wellness Wednesdays. I know we talk about winning Wednesdays and that's great, but are you well? There are people that are winning, that are making so much money that are killing themselves because they're not happy, because they haven't dealt with issues of their childhood, things like this. And there are people in the classroom that are teaching and they are not well at all. And they're just like there and they're spreading that to our kids. I'm sorry, I'm just going to be honest. And then there are children in our classroom who are also doing the same things and they are checked out. They don't know that there is light inside of them and they have so much ahead of them. They don't know it unless we tell them. So you guys know I can go off on my rant because I am so passionate about literally breaking and dismantling these systems and patterns of us going through a status quo of living that our children shouldn't have to live those ways. And if it happens, because when I think about your parents, and thank you so much and for sharing your story around it. When I think about your parents, that was what they used to be well, right?
They thought they were well.
Right. I mean, there's so many things. There's so many things here in the chat, and so I'm gonna just stop here real quick. So, I love what you guys are all saying. Thank you for your engagement. You all are amazing. Whether you're educators or not, we are all a part of making sure this next generation and the current generation is well by what we do, even what we do for ourselves, because they are watching. So Tasha says, so disheartening, but then I wonder, what did that parent deal with as a child? And that's what we were just talking about. Exactly. What did the parent deal with as a child? And so you are reaching, Tammy, you're reaching many levels. I know you're talking about teens, you're reaching adults who still had that child inside of them that were never dealt with. You're reaching teachers, you're reaching parents to say, wait a minute, am I doing the right things for my child? You are reaching. And so I want you to talk a little bit about your project and what you're working on so that you can continue to reach, and how can we stay connected with you?
Well, right now I have my book, and my book is Surviving Alcoholics Parents, and it's a teens ABC guide. The next thing I'm working on is actually an educator's guide. And it's just it's called How to Identify and Empower Children of Alcoholic Parents. Now, remember, as somebody mentioned before, that their parents, there was gun violence and there was everything else. So to me, trauma is trauma.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a drug addict. It doesn't have to be an alcoholic. It doesn't have to be, somebody whose mother committed suicide. I mean, there's trauma, and it's all over, and it does the same damage. The alcoholism and the drug addiction, I believe, has a more long lasting, because there's so much manipulation and there's so much other stuff involved in it. But I wanted to put together a guide kind of for teachers. I mean, you guys are so busy. It's insane. The teachers, they give them I was a teacher and I understand. And it's not like you can go, oh, I really want to do this. Let me just throw this 30 minutes into my day every day. It's something that has to be worked in. So I would love, down the road, for there to be some kind of curriculum, and that takes a long time. But just to give people an idea of the daily things that they can do, the gratitude journals, journaling. Not all teachers journal with their children. And I know that was, I think, probably the only thing in school I really enjoyed was my teacher that made me journal. And it was just let it out. Kids need to know that it's okay to speak. They need to know that it's okay to feel. They need to know, because they're not used to that. So that is my next project, is a guide for the educators. It's going to obviously be a little less simplistic than the teen guide, but the teen guide is fun.
Well, Tangeray said earlier, she said, I can't wait to grab that book. She's talking about your book right now. Where can they find that at?
And the chat is in the Zoom meeting. Would you tap that into I guess most people are on Facebook right now.
Yes, ma'am. I'm putting that right now in the chat for you guys on Facebook.
And the nice thing is it's only 99 cents right now. It's an ebook. The paperback will be coming out. I was trying to do them both together, but I think I'm going to go ahead and just roll the paperback out. I've had some requests for it.
And do you have something that you would like the educators to do? I know we were talking about this earlier.
Yes, actually, I am looking for my next book. I am looking for people that would like to read the book and possibly give me some kind of testimonial. If you would, I can send you the book, a PDF version of the book if you'd like. But you can, I have an email address. I don't know if you want to put that in the chat there for them. It's teensThrivingNow@gmail.com. And you can just message me and I will send you a version of the book. It would be even more fun if you put a review for me on Amazon, because then that makes my book sell better. But either way, I'll give you the book, or you can buy it for 99 cents, either way. But yeah, no, I would really appreciate some testimonials, or just words of wisdom, because I know you guys are educators. You all have them. I would appreciate them.
Thank you so much. And, honestly, I see Demita said, hey, take your time. She said, take your time. No hurry. This is powerful. So thank you. We can stick around for a few more minutes. If you guys have any questions for Tammy, please put them in the chat. We can talk about this all day, but go ahead and grab that book off of Amazon, and do me a favor and support my guest by giving her, some feedback, because she, I noticed that you said earlier, you've been out of the classroom for a little while. And so it'd be wonderful to hear your voices, so that we know how to support educators. And many of you on here and who are watching and who do follow our page are education consultants and are educators. And so even share, and if you're not, that's okay too. Please still give us you guys know what's happening in our world today. You know what's happening with our children.
Any feedback is greatly appreciated, especially since you are in the classrooms right now. You may have some ideas or things that I could stick, I mean, just whatever, anything that you think could be helpful or that you would want to see, I will make sure it gets in there.
Yes,
For
I
sure.
love it. I love it. I'm so very grateful to have you on. I'm right here with you with your mission. I feel like I preach and teach and talk so much about help our most disconnected kids. They're not just bad. We keep labeling children bad or disconnected or they don't want this. And we don't really understand what they're going through. And it's not for us to know everything, but if we create healing spaces, spaces where students can be free to be who they are, where they don't feel like they're being penalized if they get tired. Are there times in your classroom where you have some downtime and children are able to write? I love that strategy, Tammy. And maybe that's why you're a writer today. Because your teacher lets you write, I would come in, I would have my students when we would first come in from at the beginning, and they had a journal every day, just writing. They're like, but I don't know how to spell this, and I can't do it. And I'm telling you, even my middle school students, like, they loved it. Whenever I wasn't like, write this paper, I was like, you know what's going on in your life? Write whatever it is you want to write about, or I give some topics if they needed it. And it was healing for them. Conversations with one another and you all facilitating them. It is just there's so many powerful tools that we can use in our arsenal as educators to help our children. And I know I say that all the time, but to actually meet with you, Tammy, and hear your story and know, like, I know I was that child. And from your perspective, we all have a perspective. We all may have gone through some sort of trauma, but it's so wonderful. So if you want to even tell your story, I love that Tammy told her story today, and you want to talk about your purpose and mission, and you want to, come on our show for Everybody Educate, please DM me. Also know we do professional development and learning opportunities for teachers so that they can help all students through Everybody Educate. We do it all the time, and we partner with people like Tammy. I know there's some more wonderful people on here that we also partner with. And so you can have an excellent experience, and you will have an excellent experience in your classrooms. Take the tips, reach out to Tammy. I mean, just pick her brain a bit. She is open and willing to, look, my mom just walked up here. I'm like, she's open and willing to talk to you guys a little bit more on how, some more things around her book, and not just to sell it, but to go on a mission with her so that we can really change things before children become adults. Some children become adults and they're not healed, and we want to make sure everyone is healed. All right. Thank you. Are there any questions in the chat here? Anybody have any questions before we go? I did put the link to Amazon in there, so you guys can click that, and you guys can go ahead and purchase that, and please put a review on there. And we're excited. Everybody Educator is excited because I'm going to announce it today before we go. We're having our Excellent Educator Challenge again for Kwanzaa. And so I see Demita's on here. She was one of our guests last year. And we had a counselor, social worker. We had so many different people that educate our children come to you guys and talk to you each day about the principles of Kwanzaa, the 7 principles. And it was powerful. We're doing it again on Kwanzaa. And so I'm really excited. So be looking out for more information on things that are coming. And on Monday is Money Mindset Monday. So come on through if you want to, we're just trying to be well. We want to be all well-rounded. So we walk into those education spaces and we transform them, and the students' lives are transformed. They are excited and they're ready to live a life, no matter their challenges, the best life that God called them to live. Thank you all. Tammy, do you have any closing words? Any closing words for the people?
I just want to say thank you very much for being here. Thank you for letting me come on, and please reach out, because we've been there. And if you've been there, it's a lifelong battle and it's a lifelong journey. So love to reach out, have you reach out. Thank you.
And thank you all for tuning in. I'm putting Tammy's words, and she said her I am words, and she said, I am friendly and kind. And we definitely experienced that from you today. It's in the heart of your book. And thank you for the kindness that you showed by sharing your story. You didn't have to do that. So thank you so much.
You're
Look
welcome.
nice for her book, for part 2 as well in her book. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. You've been an amazing audience. You've been amazing. Tune back in with us on Monday and then next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Queen.